I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're diving into the extraordinary life of Brigadier General John G. Kulhavi. He is a decorated Vietnam War veteran, financial industry pioneer, and a leader who has lived by the mantra, "No soldier left behind." His story, told through the lens of longtime friend and renowned performance coach, Dr. Don Steele, offers gripping war stories, hard-earned leadership lessons, and a look at the man behind the medals. Get ready for a book and a conversation that is filled with courage, resilience, and invaluable wisdom from the battlefield to the boardroom. We're delighted to have these very talented guests join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put them in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support men like them by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing their amazing book. The links are below the interview. And be sure to download the Spotlight Network TV app streaming on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and Apple TV. John and Don, thank you both for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you for having us.
Now, we were chatting, John, a little bit off camera about your time in Vietnam. You flew 300 combat missions, as I understand. But what comes to mind is a humorous story from that era. So I would love to hear it.
Our base camp was outside of the village of Cu Chi. We were very close to the Cambodian border. So our camp was called Cu Chi. And we would fly 2, 3, 4 nights a week. Sometimes you'd fly half the night. Sometimes you'd fly all night. Different missions, picking up situation reports, resupplying, picking up wounded, bringing in bodies, whatever the case may be. And most nights when we'd come back to base camp, they would shoot at us from the village. We could not return fire because they had a pacification program going on in the village to convince the people to be on the side of the government, not the bad guys. And we kept thinking, these guys are shooting at us. We can see the tracers coming up at the ships, and we can't do anything. Somehow we got to get back at them. We came up with a brilliant idea. There's a lot of monkeys in Vietnam. We got a monkey, we put a collar on it, a long rope, and they taunted this monkey with a stick, made him mean. Everybody walked by, he wanted to jump on you and bite you. We thought we got this monkey well trained. We took the flare off of a parachute flare. It's a canopy about 3 feet in diameter. It's got the lanyards, that's the ropes, and we hooked up an easy to get out of harness. We put the monkey in a harness, pushed him out over the village in broad daylight. He gets halfway down. Now, this monkey's very acquisitive. He wants a better view. So instead of just riding down, he climbs up the lanyard. That's the ropes that connect the harness to the parachute. He gets on top of the parachute. It collapses. He goes down like a ton of concrete. He walked apart. We get a second monkey. This one's even meaner than the first one. When we get him ready, we push him out over the village. He made it down. Now, I was in the 25th Infantry Division, and about every 2 weeks, they publish a 5 or 6 page newsletter talking about the different operations the division was involved in. Front page of the newsletter, rabid monkey bites 6 villagers. Yay, we got back to those SOBs.
Amazing.
That's
amazing.
the kind of stuff we did for laughs.
Amazing. That's a great story. In fact, that the monkey turned out to be rabid is amazing. And also, it's pretty funny that the rules of engagement were so crazy back then that, this was the only way you could exact some kind of justice in this uneven balance of warfare, right?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Amazing. Amazing. Is that included in the book, that story?
No, it's not. It should have been, but it wasn't.
Okay, well, that's a behind the scenes look at the book. Don, you had so much to choose from. Tell us what it was like writing this book, what the lessons were you thought were important for the readers to glean from the pages of this book.
John and I were roommates in college and for one semester. And so I got to know him quite well then. And about 40 years passed. We both went on very different paths. And then we got back together again. And I was surprised to see that John had risen so high in the military and had such a record, not only in the military, but with in the finance industry. And it goes on and on. But there were so many parts to the story. I mean, his being raised very poor, very difficult situation. Dad left. No soldier left behind. He looked at his dad that way, I think. And then his going to college, and he was the president of the fraternity for quite a while, which was a job nobody else wanted, but John did a good job with it. And then moved on to his military career. He extended his college by 1 year in order to get the second Louis designation that you get if you go through the training of ROTC. And then his military, 300 combat missions and shot down twice, and some very heroic things in there. And then when he gets out, he gets into this finance industry he knew nothing about, and reshaped the whole industry by making teams. It's the way Merrill Lynch operates now, and they at that time it was unheard of. Remember Donald Regan
Mm-hmm.
that worked for Reagan? Well,
Yep.
John went to him, and he was a former military guy, and said, "I'd like to have a team like we did in the military." Reagan approved it, and so John instituted. He made a little money. And by the way, he's donated a great deal to his alma mater, Central Michigan University. And he might have voted both of us least likely to succeed at the time, but
That's funny. Well, obviously he succeeded and did well. John and Don sound alike, so I'm going to call you General John just for the interview so I don't confuse you guys. So General John, let me ask you this. What is more cutthroat, the battlefield or the boardroom?
The boardroom, without question. In the battlefield, you knew what to expect. The boardroom, you didn't.
Yeah. What lessons do you think readers can glean from your book? What do you think they'll learn from being a distinguished military leader to being a distinguished finance leader?
Take care of your people, first and foremost. I had 3 criteria for anyone that joined my staff. When I retired, we were managing several $1 billion in assets for clients in 28 states and 5 foreign countries. And I had 3 criteria I looked for. First was honesty and integrity. Secondly was work ethic. And third was positive attitude. I don't want to be around negative thinkers. They just try to drag you down. So everyone on my staff had to have a positive attitude, and we prevailed because of that. 3 lessons I learned in the military that I don't think I would have learned anywhere else. At a very young age, I was entrusted with tremendous responsibility. At age 23, I was in charge of 5 M60A1 tanks that were housed on main posts at Fort Knox, Kentucky. And they were the only armored vehicles on main posts that had a full complement of live ammo. And my job, with some regularity, I'd get a phone call. I'd have to call my first sergeant, contact the 5 crew members. They would all convene in this garage. We'd get those M60 tanks, start them up, drive as fast as we could down the main streets of Fort Knox and surround the gold vault. Our job was to protect the vault against enemy air or ground attack. At the time, I thought this is pretty serious stuff. I look back, it's not much 5 tanks would have done against an enemy force, but I had responsibility. At age 24, I was the flight leader for the 25th Infantry Division. I got to pick 10 crews every day to fly the combat missions. So I had a lot of responsibility. You learn to make decisions. They had to be made quickly, and it had to be the right ones, because if they weren't, somebody's going to die, or you're going to have a lot of damage to your equipment. And the third thing I learned was how men react under tremendous stress. I concluded very quickly there was no correlation between physical stature and courage. I saw the meanest, toughest guys totally fall apart when the bullets started flying, and the 90-pound weaklings rose to the occasion. Those are 3 lessons that I think were invaluable to me throughout my civilian and military career.
Amazing. General, let me ask you this. When I was growing up, we heard the phrase adversity builds character a lot. You grew up under an adverse situation. Your dad left at a young age and so forth, limited means. Did that build character? Did you take on added responsibility at home? And were the challenges you faced in part what made you the man you are?
I had to. I was the oldest. I was 15 years old. My father left. I was the man of the family. I did whatever I could to raise money to buy food for my family. My brother and I had a wooden wagon. We would tow it around the subdivisions where there were a lot of mobile homes, and people would leave the cans and bottles underneath the mobile homes. We collect them, cash them in to buy milk and bread. I took every job I could possibly find. I worked on a construction crew one summer. Um, the local paper was called the Ogemaw County Herald. It was published in West Branch, Michigan, and I would scan that every week when it came out. And one day there was an advertisement for a driver, and the only criteria was you had to have a valid driver's license. I was 16 years old. I didn't have a car, but I had a license. I asked my mother if I could use her car, explained the situation to her. She had a 1955 four-door, six-cylinder automatic transmission Chevy. Downhill with a strong wind that may hit 65 miles an hour. The job entailed me going to West Branch and transporting 5 adults to Traverse City, about a 3.5 hour drive due north. Back then in Traverse City, they had these huge 3 or 4 story concrete buildings that housed people that were mentally retarded. Okay. I get to the county building. I signed all these documents. They brought out 5 individuals, and they were all 100% mentally retarded. Now, that was never told to me. I had no idea who they were. This is before seatbelts. So I loaded them in a car, 3 in the back seat, 2 in the front seat with me. I had a guy sitting by the passenger door in the back seat who looked like a serial killer, but he was as docile as a kid. Anyway, I get about halfway to Traverse City. I was coming into a town called Kalkaska. It was about 5 miles south of there. And this guy starts yelling, "Gotta go bathroom, gotta go bathroom." I said, hang on, I'll get you to the bathroom. I drove that car as fast as I could. And the main street of Kalkaska, it's one main street with stores lined up on both sides. I pulled right in the middle of the street and jumped out, got him out of the car, told the other 4, wait here, I'll be right back. Took him in, explained to the lady behind the counter the situation. She said, the bathroom's in the back of the building. Feel free to use it. I walked him back there, waited until he came out. I walked outside. The other 4 were gone. It took me 2.5 hours to find them.
Oh my God.
And whenever I find one, I'm holding hands with the serial killer guy. He'd hold hands with the next one. Pretty soon I got this whole parade of retarded individuals going in and out of all these stores. And all the time I'm thinking, I signed for 5. What would they do to me if I delivered 2 or 3 or 4? I knew I had to find all 5. I did. Instead of getting to Traverse City early night, I got there in the middle of the night. They paid me by $20. I resigned from the job and went home.
Amazing. That's a great story. Well, it was worth the heartache, and it was worth the misery, and it was worth the turmoil just to have this story to tell all these years later, because that is absolutely hysterical. And certainly a war story, no doubt. Dr. Steele, let me ask you this. You've coached elite athletes, business leaders, and executives. What makes John's leadership style unique? And you guys were college roommates. Did you see it way back when?
The last question, no. I didn't see it way back when, but I did see it in, well, I should modify that, because he was the fraternity president, and
Right,
he
which is a
did
big
that
deal.
job
Yeah.
very, very well. But I was really surprised with his military career and the success he had afterwards, because I was missing from action, so to speak, for 40 years. I was living out west and doing my thing, and he was doing his. The things that I think about John, I want to throw this out, and I hope I'm answering your question, but the thing that stands out with me with John is he's helped so many other people get into business,
Mhm.
and he's very generative. I mean, he has given a lot of money to Central Michigan University, but he's helped out individual after individual after individual. And a lot of times it's people, like a guy makes donuts and he wanted to start a donut store. So he's got a donut store that John started. He bought a racetrack, half of a racetrack. And he doesn't manage any of these businesses, but he's got this wonderful, I don't know what we'd call it. It's a 1,000-acre hunting camp, but he's got an amusement park there, and he's got go-kart tracks. He entertains Detroit Lion former players and educators and all kinds of people. It's a showcase, and he actually has a helicopter there, a real helicopter, and a tank you can drive, a military tank. It was kind of a funny story when they delivered the tank to John. Do you remember that story, John? How the black gentleman was delivering your tank?
It was actually the missile carrier that he delivered that the FBI had retained for 10.5 hours.
You're lucky it was only 10 and a half hours. Try getting a missile carrier today to some kind of makeshift amusement park. I think you'd have some problems there, no doubt, right?
Well, they stopped the driver because he was bringing it from Wisconsin, and my intention, it was the only one left in the entire world, was to totally refurbish it. Today, it looks better than it did brand new. And he was coming through the Upper Peninsula of Michigan between the FBI and the state police. They got 28 phone calls. And this guy thinks he was being harassed because cars would pass him and slow down. He'd pass them. Twice he got up to 85 miles an hour. He couldn't shake them. And finally, he called the state police. And they described he was driving a white semi. You have a bunch of missiles on the back. He said, "That'd be me." And they said, "Stop at the nearest place you can pull over." He pulled into an entrance of a state park. Anyway, the state police came, the FBI agent claimed, and at 10:30 that night, they called me. And they said, "How did you acquire this? What do you intend to do with it?" And then the FBI agent said, "Are those missiles inert?" I said, "You got it. I don't. Tell me." He said, "How do I tell?" I said, "Get a rubber mallet, tap the side. If it's hollow, they're inert. If it's not, I suggest you run like hell." He got no humor out of it at all. But he calls me a second time, and this time he's even more rude than he was the first time. He said, "I don't know if you're aware of it." He said, "That thing is very scary looking. A lot of people in this part of the state very nervous." I said, "You think that's scary? You should see my tank." "You're what?" I thought we were going to be invaded by a SWAT team in the middle of the night. But anyway, we got it, and we have it in a lot of parades.
Amazing. Amazing. That's great. I would love to visit that. Is that still in existence
Oh, yeah,
today?
it's in existence. My 54th year there.
And what's it called? Do you have a name for it?
Horny Hollow Honey Haven. We call it the 4-H Club.
Okay, that sounds wonderful.
It started by a bunch of college guys, and John ended up owning it all, but that's where the Horny Hollow came from.
Yeah. We were
Amazing.
much younger then.
Great. Guys, this is wonderful. I'm glad I could be part of this reunion today. How did you guys touch base with each other again after all these years?
Don was under contract as a motivational speaker to the firm I worked for, Merrill Lynch, great firm.
Yep.
And he was a guest speaker at our office. And I knew it was important because it was mandatory attendance. I always sat in the front because I'm short, I wanted to see, and Don was on the stage. So after his presentation, I got up and we started talking and we reconnected.
Amazing. Amazing.
How it happened. That's
Great. What was it like writing the story, Don? Let me leave you with the last word.
Well, I write biographies, and each one is good. John's is foremost. Right now, I should point out that the movie companies contacted me, and we're talking to, we're having a script written right now for a possible movie of John's life, and it would be a really good story to tell. And we hope that moves forward. We know it's moving forward on the script writing, and then the next stage is going to the Scorsese's and people like that to see who would like to make a movie out of it.
Absolutely.
John said he wanted Tom Cruise to play his part, but I said Tom Cruise is 60 years old, so you better pick somebody a little bit younger.
Exactly.
I'm very modest.
We can do all kinds of stuff with special effects these days. Don't worry about it. We can make Tom Cruise young again. So perhaps we can have him star in that. That'd be great. We've been talking about the life and times of Brigadier General John G. Kulhavi. He is a decorated Vietnam War veteran, a financial industry pioneer, and a leader who has lived by the mantra, "No soldier left behind." And that's the name of this wonderful book we've been discussing today. His story is told through the lens of longtime friend and renowned performance coach, Dr. Don Steele. It offers gripping war stories, hard-earned leadership lessons, and a look at the man behind the medals. Get ready for a book that is filled with courage, resilience, and invaluable wisdom from the battlefield to the boardroom to the frat house, of course, as well. General, thank you for your service. Don, thank you for your service in bringing the General story to life. I appreciate you both joining me here today on Spotlight.
Thank you for having us. It's an honor. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The honor is all mine, gentlemen. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.